When I met Jordan, I put myself into therapy and I said, you know what? I'm going to go back to school to be a therapist because I believe that therapy had saved my life and I wanted to help people.
Marrying a pathological narcissist. He's still that today?
I don't know what he is today, right?
Did Margot Robbie communicate with you prior to the movie to just know you
Yes,
as
I
a...
met her because she wanted to get my accent. So they interviewed me and I took her to dinner. She was lovely.
Did they have a relationship with their father?
Oh, yes, excellent. That's every child's right.
What was it like when the movie came out? Do all their friends know that they're the son
Yeah,
of the
all
Wolf of
their
Wall
friends
Street?
knew it wasn't tough for them because you know what? I had already spoken to them. Your dad did drugs, your dad was abusive. That's why I left him. So my kids were not shocked. My mission is to educate and empower people all over the world about trauma bonds and toxic relationships and pathological people. They can escape when they're in it and then heal. It's expensive to go to therapy. And I started something called the Surthriver Community, and it's a trauma bond recovery community. And once a week, I have a top expert come and speak to them. And guess how much it costs?
How much?
$30 a month.
Wow.
Hello.
Hello, Nadine. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. I've been looking forward to this podcast.
Oh, me too. I'm glad to be here.
How's everything been? Where are you based at the moment, Nadine?
I'm in Connecticut. Where are you?
Sydney, Australia.
Okay, that's why we have to do it at this time.
And it's late over there, so I'm so grateful you did it this late despite the time difference. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Nadine, I guess we'll jump right into things. I think how I first came about you was, I was just scrolling through Instagram and then your clips started coming up again and again. I think I've watched Wolf of Wall Street when I was young. It probably came out when I was in high school, so I was probably 15, 16 watching it and all the glitz and all the glamour. And then I think maybe when I was around 18, 19, 20, sort of Jordan, he started creating content. So I started watching a lot of his content for sales as I was sort of growing my own business. So that's the context I had. So when your videos came up, I sort of already knew who you were. I sort of knew you were the Margot Robbie, the wife to Jordan, and that's how I started consuming your content. But yeah, that's a bit of context on how I
Yes.
first came about you, Nadine.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, that makes sense, right? Because so what are you like 32 now?
26.
Oh, you're 26. Okay, so you were even younger than my son when the movie came out. Yes. Yes, yes, yep. That was my life on the big screen.
Did you have one or two children with Jordan?
Two.
Oh,
Yep, a daughter and a son.
and did they have a relationship with their father?
Oh, yes. Excellent. A very good relationship with their father because that's every child's right is to have a good relationship with a parent, right? And as long as the parent shows up and is kind with them and nice with them, and which he is, then yeah, they have a beautiful relationship.
Has Jordan changed a lot over the time? Because I know I went through some of your recent reels and you're talking about sort of marrying a pathological narcissist and you were saying all these terms. I don't really understand them, so we can dig into them a bit deeper. But is he still that today?
You know what? I don't know what he is today, right? Because I don't really spend that much time with him. But, when we were married, he was very pathological and, addicted to drugs and abusive and using coercive control. So that was my experience with him back then.
I see, and I think there was a clip where you're talking about how narcissism is, a bit of nature and nurture.
Mhm.
Did you have to raise your children in a particular way to make sure if it might be in the DNA that it wouldn't show? Like, how did you go about raising your children given that fact?
Luckily for me, I was raised by a very loving, kind, psychologically oriented mother who was a very good mother and really attuned to me and allowed me to feel my feelings and was very supportive. So I had a very good role model as a mother. And so I really just did that with my children. I gave them a lot of unconditional love. I gave them space to be who they really are. I allowed them to feel their feelings, and it all turned out.
That's amazing. What was your relationship like with your father? And is there like a link to women's relationship with their father to who they end up being with when it comes to finding a partner? Is there any correlation there?
There can be, right? Because the root word of family and familiar, right? The same root word. So my relationship with my father was very shallow. He was never mean to me. He was never abusive to me, but he was a Disneyland dad. So he was this very charming man that would kind of come in and out of my life inconsistently. But I never experienced yelling or abuse or rage in my childhood. So, but there certainly was this experience of having this charming man in my life that was inconsistent, which is very similar to a trauma bond.
Interesting. Um, I grew up with a single mother. My parents split when I was 8 years old, and my dad was over, and we are just, I like to film these conversations with my dad because I only see him every few months, and I was like, Dad, like, you weren't around that often, like, would you like consider yourself a good dad? I don't know how I worded it, but his
Yeah.
response was like, I think it was a good thing. You guys turned out really well. I saw you guys here and there. Like I don't think I needed to be there every single day. Like look at how well you guys turned out. I don't know if he's taking my mum's credit on how much of a good job my mum did, or if there is truth there on sort of little exposure when needed is more valued. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think that I mean, listen, the research shows children only need one good parent, right? So that's what the research shows. So I don't know. I think that when you bring a child into the world, you have an obligation to show up for them. But that's just the type of parent I am. And I do think that that's being a good parent, a good enough parent, because you don't even have to be a perfect parent. But my father had a saying that in spite of parents, children turn out fine. And I think that that was a bit of a cop out.
How
It
did
sounds like your father and my father could have been friends.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I was just trying to think because it also linked me to this Andrew Tate clip. I don't know if you've heard of Andrew Tate, but he talks about how his time is more potent. He says that he doesn't need to be with his kids 12 hours every day, like an hour with him and his son, quality time every single day, or even like an hour every few days across as many kids that he has is more than enough because I don't know, his time is more potent. So that's what I thought of. And when my dad said that, I was linking those together. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've studied developmental trauma, so I just believe that, you have to show up consistently for your child. You have to be there and listen to them when they're upset. And raising children is being there, making the lunches, making the breakfast, taking them to the dentist, organizing their doctor's appointment, making sure they have tutors, making sure they go to soccer lessons, right? Being a shoulder for them to cry on when their heart gets broken. So that's the type of parent that I am and that I think is a healthy parent.
I have one or two female friends where, they definitely had a tough upbringing and maybe they had a difficult relationship with their father and maybe they were raised mainly by their mother. So there's definitely sort of unpacked childhood trauma there. Like, is that someone I should keep a distance from because, whether they might have developed some form of narcissism as a result and it might come onto me? Or is that very normal and that they'll figure it out and being around them isn't gonna hurt me?
Well, I mean, let's define what a pathological person is, right? A pathological person will use, harm, exploit, and betray you to get their needs met for money, power, pleasure, and status. So that can get caused, like we said, genetically, due to developmental trauma, due to the culture, right? So single mothers, I was raised by a single mom, you were raised by a single mom, right? That doesn't mean necessarily that they're going to turn out to be narcissistic and you should avoid them.
When you were in the relationship you were in the movie, dating a pathological liar, where was the, money, power, status, respect, um, how is that being extracted from you, Nadine?
What do you mean by extracted?
You're talking about how pathical liars do things for reasons, they do things for
Yes.
money, power, etc. Was Jordan dating you for those reasons?
Well, a pathological person will use the person that they love. So often they can use a person because they can be good for their image, right? I'm sure you've heard the term trophy wife,
Mm, mm.
right? So they can they can exploit their love because if someone is very loving and loyal and kind to their partner, but then their partner betrays them by cheating on them and lying to them and gaslighting them, that's exploitation. So, yeah, I think that I was used for that because I don't know that in that relationship I was really seen as my own person with my own needs, my own wants, my own desires, my own values.
How shortly after breaking off that relationship did you figure out that you wanted to become a therapist? And was that always on your mind?
I was raised by a very psychologically oriented mother. She was reading Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud in the 70s. So psychology was always around me. My mother would allow me to talk about my feelings. My mother would ask me how I felt. My mother would ask me at the dinner table, is it nature or nurture that shapes one when I was 10? So these questions and this way of thinking was really getting imbued into me as a child. So then when I met Jordan, I put myself into therapy because I knew I couldn't handle him and I couldn't handle the lifestyle. And then when I moved to Los Angeles, I started to meditate and I said, you know what? I'm going to go back to school to be a therapist because I believe that therapy had saved my life and I wanted to help people.
Was there something specific about therapy that prevented something bad happening to you or you making a bad decision, therefore you being like, hey, therapy really, really helped me out?
Yeah, I think what therapy allowed me to do was I was living in complete and utter chaos. It was madness. And therapy gave me a safe place every week to go and talk about all the things that I was feeling, all my fears, all my insecurities, all of my anxieties without judgment. And I think that helped keep me intact and together as a person.
And today, Nadine, do you have like a outlet each week where, whether it's your partner or a friend, where you are able to talk about everything that's on your mind? Is there something that is consistent as is currently?
Yeah, I was in therapy for 25 years. And plus, 7 years of training, plus 3 years of a postdoc. So currently, right now, I'm not in therapy. I use my husband, my daughter, actually. My daughter's a therapist. So she's my best friend. And I have, lifelong friends that I talk to. So, and my life's very calm and drama-free now.
That's beautiful. With your background in sort of, childhood development, were there things that you were able to get ahead of with your children's upbringing and growth that you're able to unpack early on so that it wouldn't spiral?
You know, I didn't go back to school really till they were older, till they were much older. So I didn't go back to school till I was 38, 39. So their developmental years, 0 to 6, were already over. But there's a second time in development that's very important, and that's adolescence. And so they were adolescents while I was in school. And again, even before I was in school, I was interested in psychology. So I do think that my interest in it has allowed my family to flourish.
I love that.
Yeah, because, I have three stepdaughters who I'm very close with. I have three grandchildren, and we're a very loving, connected, compassionate family.
From 0 to 6, when a kid is crying, like especially when it's like within its first 12 months,
Yeah.
based on the studies, like, is it healthy for you to wake up every 3 hours throughout the night to cuddle it and sort of hold it, or is it better to just let it cry it out?
It depends. I mean, listen, with an infant, it's better to coddle them and swaddle them and be there with them and soothe them because they're so vulnerable and helpless. But then as the child gets older and develops and you can talk to the child, I think it is important to tell the child, it's bedtime now. You need your sleep and mommy's here. And we have a routine of of dinner and a bath and reading books, and then it's bedtime. And then if the child cries, you can always go in and soothe the child. But I think it's important, it's at a certain point to let the child know that it's bedtime. But when it's an infant and the first year of life is very different.
Something that I've always been scared or worried is, you go to the restaurants and you see these kids, they're just crying and they're just crying for the iPad, and the parents sort of give in and give them the iPad out of embarrassment of this public setting for the kid to stop crying. What is happening there? Is it there's a root cause of giving the kid the iPad in the very first place, and that was a mistake done, a year or two earlier, or what's happening there?
So what's happening is that children need to learn optimal frustration. Okay, so that is a developmental experience that children need to understand. They have to learn how to tolerate feeling frustrated, right? Because the world does not meet our needs and does not meet us all the time. And so what happens in that instance, I mean, it's different when you're out in public. I understand maybe you don't want to upset other people, but I think what happens with parents, and I totally understand this, is that they can't tolerate disappointing the child, right? That's the parent's work to be able to be a sturdy parent. And there's a great Instagram, uh, I think she's a pediatrician, but a child psychologist, Dr. Becky. She talks about sturdy parenting, and the parent has to be able to tolerate the child's discomfort, the child's disappointment. Not that the child is suffering because he can't get the iPad. It's not like the child has fallen and hurt their arm. Yeah, sometimes you can't get the iPad, but there's something called optimal frustration that children must develop a tolerance for.
Got it, Nadine. One thing I've noticed, my family and, many others is that the lack of communication or just sharing of how you feel, like little things like, mum, when you say, are you making any money? It makes me feel like you don't trust me and it lowers my self esteem, blah, blah, blah. I don't say that. I should maybe. My sisters don't. All my friends probably don't with their parents. Is that normal? Should we be that vulnerable and that
Yes.
transparent? Okay.
Yes. Yes, because that's how real connection occurs, right? In a family, we want, I mean, our children to be able to be authentic with us and tell us what they're authentically feeling, what they're authentically needing, what they're authentically wanting, who do they want to be in the world? There's two qualities to love: tenderness, connection, warmth, trust. But there's a second piece is giving someone the space to be who they are. And so it's very important as a parent to allow your child to be authentic with you. Because if they can't be authentic with you, then who can they be authentic with?
And I think what's probably stopping me from being that authentic is I just instantly know my mum's jab back of, I'm just trying to help. I just love you. Like she'll just instantly come back at me with things like that in a very aggressive tone where I'm just
Yeah.
here trying to be vulnerable and share my feelings.
Yeah, and you can say to her, Mom, love is giving me what I actually need, not what you think I need. And what I need right now is for you to understand that this is the way I'm going to live my life. And I hope that you will support that.
I love that. And another story with my dad, I'm curious to get your thoughts on what might be causing him to be like this. My current belief, I think, is just pure ignorance. But my dad would usually just call me out the blue and be like, "Hey, Andy, like, can I borrow some money?" Or, "Hey, there's this thing I want to invest in. Would you want to invest some money in?" And one day I was like, "Dad, you always call me when you need something." And he was like, "Well, like, what else would you want me to do?" I'd be like, it'd be nice if you just call, ask how I'm doing, and check in.
Yes.
And then the next time he called me, he was like, "Hey Andy, how are you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm doing well. Things are good. Can I borrow some money?" I'm like, Dad, like I didn't mean it. Like I was like, Dad, you're doing the same thing again. And he was like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? I did what you said. Like I started the conversation by asking what you, how you're going, and I made it about you. And then after that, I asked well, what I needed. I was like, oh, and I sort of like at that moment, I was like, oh, I think it's maybe too late. Like my dad just out of ignorance had no idea what was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? Is that we give truth to our voice, right? We speak authentically to people, but we can't control how they're going to respond.
Mm.
So, like you told him what you needed, he misinterpreted or he puts his needs before yours, right? This is the dad that also kind of made the, I don't want to say excuses, but like you turned out fine even though I wasn't around, right? So, so yeah, so a lot of times we just need to give voice to our truth, but we don't know how people are going to respond, but that's okay because then we're not self-abandoning, we're not self-sacrificing, we're not self-denying.
Interesting. Are men moving like we went from a period where men were really stoic and sort of really guarded with their emotions, no crying in public, and I think it looks like we've swung the other way where like a lot of men influencers models are like they're crying, they're being vulnerable with their emotions. Is that good?
Well, it's certainly not bad as long as it's authentic.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's just about authenticity. I mean, if they're doing it to manipulate, then it's not great. But I think I'm happy that men are feeling safe enough to drop down and be vulnerable because we haven't allowed given men that space, and that's really not fair to them. Then we wonder why they're so angry.
Mm.
Not all men, of course.
Yeah, because I think maybe I've just built this false image of, a man is someone that needs to, carry all the burden and sort of not put his worries onto his wife and allow his wife to do her thing and look after the kids and give her the confidence that things are going to financially be okay, even though deep down inside he doesn't know how he's going to pay the mortgage next month, versus the man that's like, dear, I don't know how I'm going to pay the mortgage. And now she's nervous and she now wants to break up with him because she's like, dude, this guy cannot look after me.
Well, I think it depends upon the understanding that the couple has, right? But, I see my daughter and her husband, and they just had their second baby, and they're real partners. They're discussing everything. They're discussing finances. He does the dishes, he cooks, that he shares in the child care. But they're real partners. They're real equal partners. And it just depends upon, do you want to have an egalitarian equal partnership, or do you want a different sort of partnership? And I think that's real personal preference.
When my parents split up, my mum sort of never found another partner because she just wanted to really focus on the kids. I don't know if she's like watched Snow White, but she didn't want us to have a stepfather. She didn't want to have her focus divided. And I don't know if that's the reason why I'm 26, my sister 24, 23, we've all never been in relationships. I don't know if it's because we saw an independent mother stand on her own 2 feet and we maybe saw what it looked like when she was in a relationship that wasn't a perfect fit. Maybe we're just waiting it out and being very patient with finding someone that is a right match. But I did find it quite odd that all three siblings, we all haven't been in relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is true. What we're modeled. Often we monkey see, monkey do, right? I mean, we have mirror neurons, so that's why that can happen. And it also depends upon, falling in love is also a risk. You have to be seen. You could get rejected, right? You get witnessed all the time, so you have to be ready for that. It's risky business, love.
And do you think all three siblings are scared of love then? Maybe?
I couldn't say without knowing. That wouldn't be correct, but love is risky, and you do have to reveal yourself for real connection, right? So it could be timing, it could be just maybe they haven't met the right person. Everybody's so different and unique, but it is interesting that all three haven't.
How long after splitting up with Jordan did you then found and met your husband?
Yeah, I've been with my husband 26 years now, as old as you are. Isn't that crazy? And
Yeah.
he's a wonderful man. And I met him about, I would say about 2 years later.
And did you guys instantly click? Where were you right after?
Yeah, I met him on a blind date in New York. And we did. We clicked right away. We really did. Yeah, because I was divorced. He was divorced. He had 3 kids. I had 2 kids. We were both in the garment business. So we had a lot of similarities, a lot of values that were the same, a lot of stages of life that were the same. And he's a fun guy and he's a great cook.
I don't know if I built this fairy tale of sort of the perfect partner being this best friend where things are quite easy, you guys are quite on the same page on a lot of things. Over the last 26 years, has that been the case, or has it been a lot of work, communication, compromise, meeting in the middle?
Yeah, I think it's been stages. I think the beginning, it's always more romantic, a little easier, right? Then real life sets in where there's more challenges and you get to know each other more in different hard circumstances of life, parents dying, people moving, financial issues, let's say. But we've always been able to work it through. We've always been able to hear each other. It's not been perfect, but now we're just at a really lovely time in our lives, So, but love is work and it is commitment and it is being willing to get in there and communicate and not always get what you want and but family is a lot of fun.
Just saying. Yeah, I was trying to, you know, ask for advice for my love life, and I think, I just probably have to wait it out because I haven't found someone that I really want to sort of spend like I'm looking for a best friend, like looking for someone that I can spend every day with, and I guess saying no to things that isn't that is also okay.
Yes, of course. Yes. Yeah, no, my husband's my best friend. We love to hang out. It's very easy. Yeah, no, it's possible. It is possible. That's the important piece.
One of my friends recently reached out to me because he wanted to catch up, and I had a few guys in mind, and I wanted to put together a boys' night. And since everyone doesn't know each other, I was wanting to preface it with like a question to sort of open up the dinner. And I'd love to ask you the same question, maybe Nadine, and also get your thoughts on the question. But the question would be, over the last 3 months, one, what have you been giving the most of? And two, what have you been needing the most?
In my relationship,
I guess a very general question in life.
oh, what about I've been probably giving the most of my time to people,
Mm.
like doing this sort of podcast, working with my patients, running my community. So I've been giving a lot of my time, and what have I been needing? I think what I've been needing, and I have it, so it's fine, is quality connection. Yeah, with my family, with my daughter, with my grandsons, with my husband. My cousin came for a weekend. I went up and saw my ex-stepmother and my sister for a weekend. So I've been needing good quality connection, and I've been getting it.
Do you, given your busy schedule, Nadine, have you just been saying yes to all these opportunities to foster quality connections, or have you had the capacity to also reach out and organize things? Because I'm finding myself in a busy place where everything's just inbound, and maybe 2 3 years ago I'd be reaching out being like, hey, you want to catch up, but now I'm just juggling what's coming inbound.
Yeah, yeah, I'm juggling what's coming inbound. Um, but I make time for myself for self-care. I go for foot massages, reflexology, I do saunas, I exercise. That's really an important part of my life, like making the time for my health.
Do you believe in introversion, extroversion?
I do.
Okay. Where would you be on the scale?
I'm an introvert. I recharge by being home, writing, doing work, doing my emails. That's how I can be very social um, and I love connection and I love people, but I recharge. That's what introversion, extroversion is about. I recharge by being alone.
Got it. And having extroverted friends, I guess they recharge being surrounded by people, and that's just their DNA. It's not some issue of them not being able to fill their own cup.
Yeah, I just think certain people are, my husband's an extro, my husband's an extrovert. I just think people are just, it's a temperament thing. Yeah, I do. I just think it's a temperament thing. I've always been like this. He's always been like that, you know? So I think it's a temperament thing. And one isn't better or worse. It just is.
Do you see your husband 7 days a week, or do you guys have quite busy schedule where you have that time apart, and then it also, as a result, it really makes you guys cherish your time together? Or are you guys always together?
No, I mean, I'm working a lot. So we're not always together, but I work from my home. But we have our own separate lives. He's a very avid golfer. He's retired. And it's very important part of a relationship to have differentiation. Like you have to be able to have autonomy and be your own individual self in the relationship. Super important. And then you come back and then you're together and then it's, you get to like spend some good time together. But you can't be with somebody 24/7.
Got it. I love that. I've been seeing you really get consistent with the personal branding, Nadine. What has been the goal with that? Has it just been to just sort of get the word out, to get more clients? Were you already getting clients before the personal brand? Yeah.
I was in fashion before, right? So I'm very brand driven and I understand the power of a brand. And so my brand is really just part of me. I am the brand, right? And my mission is to educate and empower people all over the world about trauma bonds and toxic relationships and pathological people and validate them so that they can recognize it, they can escape when they're in it and then heal. That's my book, Run Like Hell, right? How to recognize, escape, and heal from trauma bonds. So I just got lucky because I just got this huge blockbuster of a movie that I get to use to help me do that, which is it's kind of misogynistic and the opposite of what I do, but it all works.
Did you become a therapist and get into psychology? Did you finish your studies before or after the movie came out?
I was finishing the movie came out in 2013. I got my doctorate in 2015, so I already had my master's. So I already had a clinical practice.
And then did the clinic just explode after the movie?
No, because I really never came forward. Only in 2020 did I even, 7 years later, did I even come forward that that movie was about me? Because I had nothing to say when it first came out. But then through my work, there were all these smart, kind, beautiful women getting trapped in trauma bonds. And I went back to the research, wrote the book, and that's when I started to talk about the movie.
Did Margot Robbie communicate with you prior to the movie to just know you
Yes,
as
I
a...
met with her. I met with her because she wanted to get my accent. So they interviewed me and I took her to dinner. She was lovely. What a lovely young girl. She was 22, so she was my age when I met Jordan.
How are actors able to play so many different characters and really play a narcissist really well, or play a pathological liar really well? Do they have to have those traits in them to do that, or yeah?
Oh, I don't really know because I am be the worst actress in the world. Um, so that I don't know. I think they have to really study the character.
I have some friends that, on the surface, like they're very kind, empathetic, but as I'm starting to get into psychology and I love just understanding and learning about people, I'm like, man, like this person might be like a narcissist. And I think why it's so hard because it feels like the two and two can't go together. Like, how can someone that is seemingly nice, empathetic, charismatic, caring, but then also really wants a lot of attention, can the two and two exist together?
My belief is that people are either pathological or they're not. And I don't really use the term narcissist. It just gets thrown around way too much. Um, because narcissist means someone who's very image oriented, exploitative of others, really, what else would I say? Not lacks empathy, lacks remorse. But I think that you just are or you're not. And I just think narcissism is not a strong enough term for a pathological person, because they can be quite predatory too. So, but if people, one of the tell signs is not having empathy, not having remorse, not having compassion, and hurting people and really that are very close to you and not caring. So people can be cruel and kind. That's the confusing part. But usually even the kindness is a manipulation.
Yeah, Nadine, I think that's sort of where I'm getting at. Are there some examples or tell signs that maybe me or the viewer can help identify if someone is pathological, even especially if they're sort of at a stage in life where everyone's quite successful, so everyone's really hiding it really well. It's sort of like a wolf in sheepskin. Any tips for spotting the wolf in sheepskin?
Yeah, so the first thing is try and set a boundary with them. If they freak out about your boundary, run like hell, right? Because boundaries are a normal part of relationships. Also, notice, do their words match their actions? Do they actually do what they say they're going to do? Or if you catch them in a lie, or if they do something harmful to you, because we're all human, we all do those things. So they say, you know what, I'm really sorry I did that. I wasn't thinking straight. Or do they say, I didn't do that. I don't know what you're talking about. Do they gaslight you? That's it never happened.
Is there any small boundaries that is a good boundary to set to just see where people are at? Is there like an example of a boundary people can use to
Yeah,
play it
you
out?
could say to somebody, I mean, it could be so simple as somebody could, say to you, hey, do you want to go out tonight? And you're like, you know what? I really worked so hard this week, I can't go out. And instead of them saying, oh, I understand, they go, what do you mean? I went out with you last time. I can't believe you're not going with me.
Oh my God. Well, then I might be pathological. I don't. I wouldn't reply that way, but I've been going through this period where, like, over the last year, I've just been saying yes to everything, showing up for people, and like my schedule is busy, and every time I invite someone to something or get a plus one or plus one someone something, and they give me a no, I've been busy. In my mind, I'm like, man, like I'm the one that should be busy. I'm the one that should be saying no. And on top of that, I'm thinking like, man, like this is someone that I've said yes to, showed up for all the time, and I'm disappointed. I don't show it. I'm like, that's totally fine, no pressure. I move on. But the back of my mind, I'm thinking
But that's
pathologically.
but that's different though, because you give them, you don't cross the boundary. You don't say, no, you have to go. I've done this for you 10,000 times. You owe me. You can
Mm,
have your own feelings about it,
mm,
right? But you're managing your feelings.
mm.
You're not exploding on them. There's a difference.
I see. So that means it's quite normal to for everyone to have the same similar negative feelings, but the pathological person lets it out, whereas the everyday person is
Yes.
able to restrain it.
Yeah. Yes. They're able to tolerate being frustrated.
Wow. As you sort of progress through life and you sort of get into more rooms where there's just more, I don't know, quote unquote successful people, whether it's actors, business people, etc., do you find that there are more or less pathological people?
I think the more successful people can get, the more pathological they can become. Or there's more pathological people in those rooms. There can be, yes. Because remember, what is the pathological person drawn to? Power and control. So what's a great way to have power and control is to have tons of money and be super successful.
Wow. Was it tough for your kids to grow up with the Belford last name? Do they have the last name? What was it like when the movie came out? Do all their friends know that they're the son
Yeah,
of the
all
Wolf of
their
Wall
friends
Street?
knew it wasn't tough for them because you know what? I had always spoken to them. Your dad did drugs, your dad was abusive. That's why I left him. So my kids were not shocked. I didn't go into the details or disparage him, but my kids weren't shocked, and Jordan was around, and we knew all their friends. So no, it was okay for them. I mean, maybe for my son, it was a little funky, but because he was a real teenager, like I think like a sophomore, not maybe a sophomore, yeah, or junior in high school. But we took him to a private screening at Paramount, Jordan and I, so we could take him together. No, they were okay with it. I mean, maybe for the first week, and then they were over it. Then they're back into their own lives. Who doesn't like them? Do they have a pimple? Did a girl reject them?
With your relationship with the kids, are they talking to you about girlfriends, boyfriends,
Oh,
crushes?
everything,
Wow.
everything,
And how did you
absolutely everything.
Build that safe space, and then how did you, yeah, how do I have my kids to do the same if I get kids?
Because you know what? They know I don't judge them. They know I love them. They know I'll be tough if they do something wrong, but I'm very soothing to them. If they're upset, I'm not like, "Why'd you do that?" I'm like, "Oh God, you know what? I can tell you're really sad. Like, let's just talk about it." And so whenever they're upset, they call me, right? So I'm that person. I'm their soother.
So let's say in 10 years time or 15 years time, I have my first child, and now the kid is now say 12, 13, and he comes home from school. He's like, hey dad, today I learned about, drugs. I learned from school that it's bad and it's illegal. Do I respond with A of like, oh, you're right, it's bad, you shouldn't do it. What did you learn? Tell me about that. I agree. Or should I be like, hey, I agree with you, but I just want to let you know I have tried drugs when I was younger. I definitely wouldn't want you to because of all the things you taught, but I just want to let you know that this is something because I just want to be honest with you and let you know that if you ever have the need to try, you can talk to me about it.
Yeah, I think either one is fine.
Oh,
I think it depends upon the child's age. I think 16 maybe is like a better time for that. But I think, being honest with your children when it's developmentally appropriate is important because we're human. And if we had a bad experience with it, right, we could be like, we had a bad experience with it. Maybe if somebody's an addict, like, don't do drugs because it's in your genes, right? Or like, let me share with you what happens, and I'm here to be with you through this because it's everywhere. Drugs are everywhere. So we have to be real with our children.
did you kids open up about girlfriends and boyfriends just naturally, or did you already talk about those things so they felt comfortable about bringing that up?
I think I talked about those things and then they felt comfortable. Yeah. Yeah, no, they told me everything. And they tell each other everything.
what are
No
the
secrets. No secrets.
What's the age gap between the two siblings?
2 years. So my son's 30, my daughter's 32.
Did they go through adolescent phases where they were bickering and fighting together, or were they always close?
They've always been super close. Super, super close. They're best friends.
Is there something that you did in order to foster that, Nadine? Or was it natural and like luck?
I'm very close with my brother, so it's just kind of what I knew. And they're best friends. I mean, now actually my son will call my daughter instead of me. It's cute. Like, how come you don't call me as much anymore for advice? But that's okay. That's the way it's supposed to go. I just think, having communication with your children about how they feel, about what's happening inside in their internal world. We all have an internal world of thoughts and feelings and insecurities, and we need to have a safe space to talk about them. And I just think I was that safe space. But, with sturdiness too, when necessary. I mean, listen, you have to get good grades, you have to show up, you have to get to school on time.
And Nadine, what have you been really focused on over the last 6 months? Has it been trying to get more clients, or what has been the main focus for you?
So the main focus for me over the past 6 months is I started a community.
Yep.
So I have a private practice and with women all over the country, all over the world. And then what I did, it's expensive to go to therapy. So I really wanted to democratize what I do. And I started something called the Surthriver Community. And it's a trauma bond recovery community where I run support groups. I teach my book as a course every week. And once a week, I have a top expert in trauma bonds, narcissistic abuse, trauma, come and speak to them. And guess how much it costs?
How much?
$30 a month,
Wow.
$1 a day.
Worldwide, anyone around the world can join?
That's right.
Wow.
I have a woman in Italy, a woman in Czech. Yep. It's very exciting. Very exciting.
How long have you been running this community now, Nadine?
Since February, March, April, May, June, July. Oh, yeah, since February this year. And it's going great.
Is
And the
it
women are transforming.
Is it weekly like Zoom calls? Is
Yeah.
it like a school group?
It's on a platform called Circle,
Okay.
and it's incredible. So it's its own platform. We have our own social feed. Yep. So I do podcasts. I have my practice. I do that. I'm very busy.
What gave you the motivation, or how did you figure out how to create this community? Is there like, because I know creating webinars, funnels, like getting people to start, it's difficult. How did you figure it out, Nadine?
Honestly, just by the on my by the skin, I don't know, by the skin of my pants, I don't know, I just followed my gut, follow my intuition. I knew that women needed a community. I knew about Circle. My website guy helped me, and then I hired a funnel company. So yeah, so I just did it through grit. Honestly, just through grit.
Talking about funnels, webinars, all that glitz and glam. I know Jordan had a pretty good sort of funnel when he sort of started teaching sales.
Yeah.
Have you ever, or do you ever go to Jordan for
No,
insight? Okay.
we have very different business models.
Got it. Okay, cool. And I guess how can people join and find about this community, and who is it for? Is it for young girls,
Yeah.
girls in relationships, older?
Yeah.
Like, what's the
It's
demographic?
it's for anybody who's been in a trauma bond, who's trapped in a trauma bond. It doesn't matter the age. I have women in there that have been in one for 2 years, women that have been there for 20 years. I have a woman that was in one for 32 years and is finally leaving because of the community, right? So it's all different ages. And people can always go to my website, drnae.com, sign up for it there. I also have free assessments there, free worksheets on my website. They can get my book, Run Like Hell, if they just want an introduction to my work. And then they can always find me on Instagram, as you know, The Real Dr. Nadine.
And what's the definition of a trauma bond, just in case someone might be in one
Yeah,
and they might not even know
yeah,
they're
a
in one?
trauma bond is a toxic, dysfunctional relationship between two emotionally attached people. I write about it between lovers. And what makes it toxic is one of the partners wants power and control over their other partner. And they gaslight them, they betray them, they usually lie to them. Sometimes they can be rageaholics, addictions. And so one of the partners is pathological. And then it's very hard to love them and it's very painful.
And Nadine, like another term I've heard thrown around a lot is codependent relationships. What is a
Yeah.
codependent relationship?
I don't really use that term. I just think it's like a bullshit term. Um, I think that we are dependent on each other, and it really is someone who's like maybe a people pleaser, but I just think it really shames people that want to be connected. It was a term that was really in the addiction model and then got, kind of co-opted by domestic violence. But why I don't like it is because a victim is never responsible for an abuser's abuse. She didn't enable it. So that's why I just don't like the term.
Got it. Nadine, two questions we usually always wrap up these podcasts with. One, any recent discoveries that you've been implementing to your day-to-day life?
Oh, any recent discoveries? Well, I do vitamin IVs for my health and for my energy level. I think it's great.
How long have you been doing that? How does that work? Do you recommend
Been
it?
doing it for about two to 3 years now. And I go once a week, once every 2 weeks, and you go and they have all different cocktails, and it's great. because we just don't get enough nutrients from food. And, in 10 years, they'll tell us it's bad for us, but right now it works. And I do the sauna a lot, a few times a week.
Yeah. Do you have what time do you block out for your day to sauna, yoga, exercise,
Morning,
whatever mornings?
morning. Like tomorrow. Well, tomorrow I have a meeting at 7 a.m., but normally I work out at 7:10.
Seven. And then when is usually your calendar open? Is it 10 onwards usually, 10 to 5?
Yeah, I'm usually working like exactly like 10 to 5. Yeah, I mean tonight late, but sometimes till 7. It just depends upon my day. And every day in the summer I've tried to give myself Fridays off, so that's been great.
Got it. And then in the winter, is it also the same or would you work through the Friday?
No, I'll work through the Friday.
Oh, so during the winter you would work 7 days a week.
No, I work 5 days a week, but I just don't. Yeah, yeah, no, no, no. Not I don't. I don't work Saturdays and Sundays. I might do paperwork, but I'm not seeing patients.
Got it. Are there anything that you routinely do with your partner every week, whether maybe it's on the Saturday or Sunday? Yeah, is there like a consistent routine? Whether it's like a,
No,
oh.
we just play it by ear.
Last question, Dean. Any personal goals or focus for the next 6 months that is not work related?
Oh, just to play with my two new, with my I have all grandsons, just to play more with my grandsons.
Is the whole family in Connecticut
Yes.
nearby?
Yes. Yep. So just to play more, just to play more, because, I do such serious work. So just to play more with them because they're so much fun.
Nadine, how can people get more of you?
Okay, so if you want more of me, go to The Real Dr. Nadine on Instagram, or like I said, my website, drnae.com. My TikTok is Dr. Nay LMFT. And yeah, that's it. Come by, say hi, get my book, sign up for the community, direct message me. I answer my direct messages, right?
Yeah, and then Nadine was amazing. I reached out to her. She replied on her DMs. We were able to organize it. So she definitely does reply to messages. So reach out to her.
Yes, please. Well, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate our conversation.
No, thank you, Nadine. I really appreciate how you've done this. I know it's late over there, so I appreciate you going overtime. I love how you definitely have this passionate vision to help as many people as possible that sort of went through what you went through, and now you're like, hey, like I want to help those. Basically, you're trying to be what you wish you would have had, which is amazing. And I really love how
Exactly.
you're just a straight sharpshooter. It was just like straight to the point with a lot of the questions, and I learned a lot. So thank you for today's your time.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely day because I think it's day there. I'm going to go to bed.
Awesome.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Nadine.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Guys, if you made it this far, hopefully you guys found value in this episode. See you guys next week with another episode. Peace.